The special session of MAGA'HAGŭ 38 na Legislature in GUHNS is called back to order. Senator GUHNS, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Speaker, I move to place Bill number 19S onto the second reading file. Bill number 19S, introduced by the Committee on Rules, by request of MAGA'HAGŭ, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act to appropriate from fiscal year 2026 and non-appropriated general fund revenues the sum of up to $13,361,849 to the MAGA'HAGŭ for Super Typhoon BAVI response and recovery, $11,400,000 for child care subsidy payments, and $17,654,625 for the Guam International Airport Authority financial obligations and shortfalls.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator GUHNS, you're still recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I move to waive special session agenda items 15 and 16.
On the motion to waive special session agenda items 15 and 16, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator GUHNS, you're still recognized. Give me one minute recess. Back from recess. The Legislature will now proceed in today's item on the agenda, Bill 19S, an appropriation measure placed in the second reading file pursuant to the standing rules of bills reported to the Legislature in GUHNS containing an appropriation, authorization for an appropriation, shall be considered by the Legislature in GUHNS and the Committee of the Whole, chaired by the chairperson of the Committee on Finance. So that'd be you, Senator Dueñas, but you're recognized.
Sinusmasi, Mr. Speaker, good morning to my colleagues and yourself, Mr. Speaker, and those who will be watching this very important session today and in the days and maybe a week to come. For Bill 19S, as the Oversight Chairperson of the Committee of the Whole, Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to direct the attention to our colleagues. If they haven't received this, they should have received it in their email. On July 2026, I penned a letter to John Jr. Calvo, Chief of Staff, Esther Agui, Administrator of Office of Civil Defense, Brigadier General Karen L. Watson, Adjutant General, Guam National Guard, Honorable Jesse L.G. Alec, President of the Mayor's Council, Joy Jean Arceo, Executive Director of Mayor's Council of Guam, Vincent P. Areola, Director, Department of Public Works, Joseph Carbolito, Acting Chief Police, Guam Police Department, Lester Carlson, Director of Bureau of Budget Management Research, Edward M. Byrne, Director, Department of Administration, Judy T. Wampat, Superintendent, Guam Department of Education, Therese C. Areola, Director, Department of Public Health and Social Services, Christina Garcia, Guam Economic Development Authority, Siska Hupatea, Board of Directors, Guam Economic Development Authority, John Kanata, Executive Manager, AB Wampat International Airport Authority, and Chairman Brian Bomba, Director, Board of Directors, Chairman, AB International Wampat Airport. Mr. Speaker, because this appropriation is quite large and consists of multiple appropriations, we have chosen to break this down into 3 panels. And so this morning, we are looking to invite the guest from Panel 1 dealing with Super Typhoon BAVI response and recovery. So for that, Mr. Speaker, I also acknowledge and report now that we are requesting the presence of the Office of the Governor, Office of Civil Defense, Guam National Guard, Mayor's Council of Guam, Department of Public Works, Guam Police Department, BBMR, Department of Administration, and Guam Department of Education to be our panel guests in the Committee of the Whole. And I now make the recommendation to resolve the Committee of the Whole for the purposes of dealing with this introduction of legislation. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Gentleman from GUHNS, sir, you recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to comment that he mentioned panel 1. Can he identify all the panels so we have an understanding, not just fragmented at a time, each one, and then we know what's happening today and tomorrow and whenever?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Can you yield to that?
I yield, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, can we take a 1-minute recess so that we can distribute the emailed notice that I gave to all the legislators so that we can follow along on the floor here? 1-minute recess, please.
Okay, 1-minute recess. Legislature back from recess. Senator Augustine, sir, you still have the floor. Do you have, will the information that you received suffice?
Okay, well, this letter identifies the panel. Okay, then we'll work with the letter and we'll figure out what we're going to do and how many days we're going to last on this. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay. Senator Tlai, you have the floor, man.
I just wanted to check if the mayor's council was in the first, and they are, because they are here, and I didn't want to make them wait, but they are, so thank you.
You're very welcome. Senator Dueñas.
Mr. Speaker, having satisfied the request of the body to understand the schedule that was also emailed to them on May 20, I request that we resolve the committee of the whole for consideration of the bill before us.
On the motion to resolve the committee of the whole, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. We're in recess so that we can resolve the committee of the whole.
Materials for the Committee of the Whole, we are in order now. Materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared session Google Drive folder labeled 72326, Committee of the Whole. Rules of engagement. We have Bill number 19S. There will be 3 rounds of questions and answers. In round 1 and 2 will be for 10 minutes. In each round, each senator is allotted, once again, 10 minutes, excluding responses, for discussion and questions to the panel. As a reminder, you can only yield your time to one member, and that member will receive all of that time. After completing round 2 of the questions on the bill, panelists will be dismissed. Round 3, amendments and final comments will be 5 minutes. Proposed amendments must be submitted in writing to the clerk via email to session@guamlegislature.gov and must be submitted before the 3rd round begins. We will proceed with amendments in the order received, and any replacement is considered a new submission. Amendments not submitted in writing to the clerk and uploaded to the Google Drive before the start of the 2nd round will be out of order. After we finish the amendments round of the bill, we will entertain a motion for recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, followed by a motion to rise. Thank you. So, colleagues, yes, Senator July.
Is this per panel then?
Yeah, so I was going to address that
Oh,
right now.
thank-
So what we will do is we will take the amendments per panel, but we will deal with the amendments as a whole. So basically, because we will be dismissing each panel, when you have your amendments in before that 2nd round, or during that round as we go into to release that panel, and then we'll accumulate all the amendments, and when our final panel departs, we will be in the 3rd round for all of the amendments that have accumulated. Yes, Senator Burnett.
Sidus Masi. Manana Sidus to the people of Guam. Good morning and thank you for watching. So just for clarity, do we have to have the amendments all in before we begin the final 3rd round on all of the panels?
Yes, so so each panel contemplate what your amendments might be based on your questions with the panel. And then so when we finally dismiss that panel, that will close the amendment section of that round.
Okay, so let me just get this straight. So we have 2 rounds with each panel, and we have until the end of the 2nd round with each panel to submit amendments.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then we will accumulate, Senator, all of those amendments, and we will have one final 3rd round where we would do comments and amendments. Because this is 3 separate appropriations and they're very important, each on their own, that's why we decided to do these panels. This would be the same thing had we done the bill as a whole, if it was not so voluminous, and we would have 1/3 round whereby we would contemplate amendments. And so in this instance, you're going to be allowed to accumulate your amendments, and we would do one final 3rd round for amendments and closing, and then a motion to rise after that. Senator Perez, do you have any questions on that? I noticed you were looking at the chair.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just to give us more time to make amendments, would it be possible to have all the amendments done before that final 3rd round when we do amendments, to give us more time?
If that's the will of the body, I'm not concerned. This is the governor's bill. You can amend away. If we want to have amendments all the way to the final 3rd round, I don't have any problem with that. Is that the will of the body? No objections. So colleagues, I will amend the rules of engagement to where we'll do all 3 panels, meaning that you'll have up until the time that we start the 3rd round, which will be the completion of all 3 panels, for you to have submitted your amendments, and then when we start the 3rd round, all amendments will be ruled out of order after that. Senator Burnett, you're recognized.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to ask, just for more clarity on how long we anticipate this special session to go. So you sent out the memo on July 20th, which was a holiday, then we had the liberation. So have you heard back from all the agencies, and are they on standby?
We have gotten several messages that some folks have appointments, but they're going to move them around. But we haven't had any rejection to the panel outright saying that they won't be here. I understand we have a full panel waiting in the gallery, And so if we get no other notices as we go, we'll let you know. But right now, the only thing that we've had is some individuals, say that they had prior appointments. I also am, that's why I'm giving the liberty of 10 minutes per round. We can also, in that instance, I think today, if we don't have civil defense here, we can do just the first round of the 10 minutes, and then we're planning a lunch break at 12. And then we can make sure, because they said they could make it. I think Joe Cabana might be here, but I think the chief will not be available this morning, but Esther Aggie, but will be in the afternoon. So we'll make it so that we should not be without these panelists. These are very key, and I think you're going to hear some very good questions to these panelists as well. Very important. So I'll work with the body as we go along. I anticipate maybe several days for this to be able to work through this bill. Yes, Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned you changed the rules of engagement, so we have 2 rounds of questions, but no third round per panel until we get to the final, right?
That's right, Senator.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
The only thing I changed, Senator, was we always only had 1 third round, and that was going to be the end of all the panels. But what I changed was the senators want more time for amendments, possibly, and then that means that instead of ending the time for submission of amendments per panel, we're just taking it all the way to the 3rd round. So once we open the 3rd round, whatever's there is there at that point.
Thank you.
Okay? All right, so we're all in agreement with the rules of engagement. So at this time, I'm going to take a short recess. We'll bring in the first panel. We'll swear them in. We'll have an opening statement from the administration, and then we'll proceed. We're in recess. The committee of the whole is back in order. I don't know if Sarge is busy. We're going to get the panel sworn in here, and then we'll have an opening statement. So we'll wait on the Sergeant at Arms to swear in the panel. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and allow them to start introducing themselves. I'll go to my far right here and go ahead and introduce yourself for the record.
Today, my name is Lucia Perez. I'm with the Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Cabana, Guam Recovery Office Director for Civil Defense.
Good morning. I am Esther Aguigui. I'm from the Office of Homeland Security and Civil Defense.
Alfade, I'm Colonel Manuel Duenas Jr. I'm the Chief of Joint Staff for the Guam National Guard.
Good morning. Edward Byrne, Director of Administration.
Good morning. Lester Carlson, BBMR.
Buenas and Alfade, Judith Wanpat, Superintendent of Education.
Good morning, Honorable Senators. Franklin Anguro, Deputy Superintendent for Finance and Services, Guam Department of Education.
Good morning, Senators. Vince Ariola, Director, DPW.
Good morning, Lindy Ibanez, DPW Deputy.
Alfade, Jesse Alec, Mayor PT and President of the Mayor's Council of Guam.
Good morning, Georgina Arceo, MCOG Executive Director.
Thank you, panel. I will now ask you to rise and be sworn in by the Sergeant at Arms.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Chair, under oath, you may proceed.
Thank you. Because there have been several requests, I'm going to ask at least Lester Carlson and maybe Ed Byrne to give us an opening statement on why we are here on this legislation.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everybody. We're here at the request of the governor to entertain a funding request. And before we sat down, Senator Duenas went over the three elements that are contained in the bill that the governor sent down. And it's just to reiterate, it's money for Typhoon BAVI, $13,361,849. $11,400,000 for child care subsidy payments, and $17,654,625 for the Guam International Airport Authority. The funds that we are seeking the legislature's approval to use come from FY26 unappropriated general fund revenues received in excess of adopted levels. We sent the CRER out yesterday, and the CRER basically indicates that we have funds not contained in the recently passed FY27 budget, separate and apart, and we're tracking $88,630,869 over the adopted level. And when we were in the budget session, I believe an amendment proffered by Senator Matanani did pass that would accelerate the payment of $20 million to GMH. I'm hoping that there was an amendment for DOC. Similarly, we talked about it, but it just made sense to be able to use the same methodology as Senator Matanani did to make the GMH money available more sooner rather than later. And then there's a $890,000 appropriation to the Guam Legislature. So those three appropriations are total $25,890,000. You deduct that from the $88,630,869, and you come up with $62,740,869. If you take the special fund shortfalls that we included in the CRER of $5,102,744, we have a balance after both the current appropriations and the special fund shortfall of $57,638,125. So the measure before you provides a source that is more than sufficient to cover the areas that we're seeking the legislature to assist in funding. So we just wanted to make sure that the public, as well as everybody here, understood that the funding source, number one, is separate and apart from the FY27 budget that the body passed on Monday, that these funds are currently available, and we have the CRER that we submitted yesterday to support that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm okay.
Sizus Masi. Lester, if you can help me with this, because there's been some questions to the committee and some back and forth on the basis of the CRER, the representation of the excess revenue. The fiscal year 2026 budget, as passed and currently the law, was the governor's EBR, correct?
We submitted a revenue estimate to the body 6 months before the body deliberated on the 26 budget, and yes, sir, you're correct. OFB and basically BBMR have historically agreed on 95% of the revenue estimates.
Thank you. So for the body, I want to be clear. There's been a number of representations that there was this $40 million hit in the 2026 budget. Not correct. We adopted the revenues of the governor. And so we are tracking a $88 million surplus on top of adopting the entire budget of the fiscal year 2026 as requested in the EBR. So all of this discussion on this $40 million hit is not true, simply because we didn't adjust revenues by the governor for fiscal year 2026. We adopted, even though we have a 4.5 tax rate, we adopted the governor's numbers in whole. As we start now, I go to the speaker on panel 1. Mr. Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the panelists for all being here. And I'd like to get a greater idea as to what the expectations are. This is an appropriation for $13,361,849. How that's going to be divvied up with everybody here, or what was the expectation that everybody had with this? And so maybe if we can start, Mr. Chair, we can start with the administration, with Lester and with Mr. Byrne, and then go down the line and see what everybody's expectations are, so that we know how we got to this figure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So on top of the close to $9 million that we already appropriated for BAVI, this is an additional request. Lester, can you give us a breakdown of how you wish to distribute this request to all of the panelists that are here?
Thank you, sir. Just a point of clarification, the $88 million is derived primarily from income tax, corporate income tax, and withholding taxes. $70 million of the $88 million comes from those three tax categories. We're not talking about BPT, we're just talking about the tax categories. Far and away, those three tax categories are the main reason why we're tracking $88 million. It has nothing to do with BPT and levels associated with BPT. Thank you for that, sir. The body did authorize SINLACU funding that was available and not spent to be used for the initial BAVI response. There was about, as the Senator mentioned, $8 million that we kind of ballparked we hadn't closed out a lot of the expenses yet, but it was a great start to be able to have the typhoon response, and we appreciate that. We really do. Thank you. Most of that money was taken up by the bill that appropriated, and correctly so, rightly so, no argument about it, $250,000 to each mayor, $100,000 to the mayor's council, $250,000 for each DOE school that was used as a shelter. And I believe Mr. Byrne corrected me because I only recall 2 schools, but Mr. Byrne said no, DOE is claiming 5 schools, so that's $1.25 million. As you can tell, most of that money was eaten up already because the mayor's was about 4.7 million, and another million plus for the DOE 5 schools. So we didn't have very much money left at the end of the day for response activities. Right before BAVI hit, I was in coordination with DPW, Vince Ariola, Linda Ibanez, and we had green waste sites that we needed to address from Sinlaku before BAVI hit. And that, we had $10 million sitting in reserve. I immediately released the reserve so that DPW could work with DOA and get contractors to go out and, as quickly as possible, remove the green waste before the onset of BAVI. With that, those are contractual requirements. That was $10 million. And I think we all know that Sinlaku, for the most part, was more devastating than BAVI, but all you have to do is drive up and down Marine Drive to see that we still have the same kind of storm surge. We still have remnants of BAVI along Marine Corps Drive between this office, this area here, and Adelup. So I see it every day. It's right after the crew at DPW got the beachside to a usable condition, we had BAVI hit. And I mean, I could see the grass again from Marine Drive and the shoreline in Anigua area. And I thought that was wonderful that we had that good of a response. There was no more sand on the road. It was all good to go. And now we're back to still having sand on the road. We have piles in front of, Kentucky Fried Chicken. We still have piles on the area between the beach and the road. And I'm pretty sure that that type of devastation is still evident throughout the island. So we're here today to seek funding because, quite honestly, what was left from Sinlaku really wasn't a lot of money. And we're here to be able to ask you for additional funding. I do apologize, sir. I don't have an actual breakout, but maybe if we can run through the different agencies and ask what their requests were that basically came up to the $13 million, because in drafting the bill, there was some other coordination that did not necessarily involve me. I was just asked whether or not the funding was sufficient, and I said, yes, the funding is more than sufficient. But like DPW, between all the work that they do island-wide for response and clearing the roads, and after they clear the roads, then you have to, take care of the green waste, and you have to take care of the stuff that got pushed to the side of the road. And that's a lot of time and effort, and it's still ongoing with respect to BAVI. The Office at Civil Defense has immediate response requirements, ongoing after the passage of BAVI and Condition 4 being declared. The Guard, we did activate the Guard, and I'm glad that Mr. Duenas is here today to speak to the duties and responsibilities that they undertook in the recovery. DPW is a big player here, but more importantly, our mayors are a huge first line and responders to the effort. So Well, like I said, there was money appropriated directly to the Mayor's Council and some money to DOE, but nothing for the rest of the administration, executive branch for responses. I don't have details, sir, and maybe the panel can help me out.
And that was the whole purpose. So I mean, I could start with the mayors, okay, and this is what they ask is with this appropriation and where did that figure come from? Recognizing, okay, that I'm not concerned about the initial $250,000 that you all got and the $100,000 for the okay. Saying yeah, no, okay, this is for this one here. So go ahead and.
We were never asked to. We're not included. We're not yet.
Ooh.
I don't think the Mayor's Council is included in this 13 million. We were never asked. Well, we weren't asked we weren't asked about a lot of things, but we weren't asked to be a part of this 13 million. So as far as I know, we're not getting a share of this 13 million.
But okay, then it begs to ask the question, now that you're sitting here, is there any ask for us to consider right now at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay, thank you very much, Thank you, Mr. President. DPW.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As was mentioned by the BBMR director, we are continuing to do our work after Typhoon BAVI, and most of that is, as you can see, along Marine Drive. And of course, we are going to handle the debris removal. We had, I believe it's passed out. You see our numbers there on the daily intake at the temporary debris removal site of how much green waste we've taken in there. So that has to be factored into recycling and, of course, overall removal. This after BAVI, we decided that we would only intake green waste and construction debris. We believe the clear majority of others, white goods, electronics, so on and so forth, was taken during Sinlaku. So, as a matter of fact, today is the last day for the debris sites to open. They will close after today. The numbers coming in have been declining, so we believe we're at a good spot to close the debris site. The big issue here, Mr. Speaker, is going to be the rock retaining wall all along Marine Drive on East Agana, West Agana, as far as Antigua, and then of course the commercial port wall. All rock walls, all retaining walls suffered damage during Sinlaku, and then additional damage during BAVI. What we are doing right now, just as a temporary fix, is there's gaps, there's holes, there's crevices all throughout the East and West Agana and the commercial port. Is we're restoring the walls as much as we can with boulders, and then we will pour flowable fill concrete into those crevices and those manholes just to keep the wall in some form of structural rigidity. That is strictly a temporary fix. What we need to do is we're working with FEMA, we're working with Army Corps, we're working even with the Federal Highway Administration for additional funding to reconstruct those walls. But in the meantime, what we would like to do with some of this money here is we would like to do a thorough assessment of the entire walls and put together a design, if you will, of a wall that will last. You know, there's so many different methods of seawalls that are done throughout the world. So we've got to take a look at that. You know, they always say you want to build something for a 25-year storm. We said that at Sinlaku, and within 60 days we had another one. So we don't want to chance this at all. We want to do the temporary repairs right now, but we also need to move on getting a design assessment, geological work, and other environmental issues that are faced with this, because we're talking about 1, 2, 3 bays, if you will, and then of course the retaining wall at the commercial port. So this is going to take quite a bit of money just on the design itself. I don't have an estimate on that, but I can tell you that just the design, the assessment, the environmental work is going to be in the millions. I think overall the construction, I'm not for the record, I don't have a number for that yet. We are still doing major assessments. And when I say we, it's ourselves, it's FEMA, it's Army Corps, it's, we've sought the assistance of our federal highway counterparts in Honolulu. They've seen the videos, they've seen the pictures, they've seen the damage that the sea has done to Marine Drive, and so they know the urgency here.
Thank you. Speaker, Juan Pat, welcome home.
Thank you. Buenas and happy day. Before I give you the numbers, I'd just like to first of all thank all of you very much for that appropriations for our shelter schools. I want you to know this is the first ever that has been provided to the Department of Education, and it's very much appreciated because when we were looking at some of the numbers by those who were here during Mawar, and then our first experience with Sinlaco and BAVI, is that all of the things that we had to procure, more importantly, was to top off fuel for the generators that are running, would be running at the time when there's no island power, and also to top off the water. And the third would be to request for a water buffalo. Oh, those and many other supplies and materials, the school actually used their own budget. This is the first time now that, based on the appropriations, is that it was a welcome need for us. What we've also done, before I give you the numbers as well, is that we wanted to look at past experiences in terms of what do we need to do to prepare for the next storm. Not just address the damages, but how now do we harden again, and especially those schools. Now, we have 15 schools that has been identified to be shelters, but for the most part, and thankfully, is that we were able to open 5, and then later we start to consolidate. So when we were calculating everything for salaries, equipment, supplies, and reimbursement of the monies that we have expended, and for fuel and water, it came out to $1,316,660,000, which basically I know over the 1.25. So the request above that would be $66,000. We're not being exorbitant in terms of what it is that we're requesting for. What's really important to us are, and then you should have a copy of some of the things that we've spent those monies for. And like I said, it is primarily to address whatever damages we incurred. And then the other is how now, what do we need to do? What is something standard that every year we have to put up? And that's where the supplies and materials, come in for the schools. In addition, to also explain to you, if you should, and later if you want to ask questions about it, is we listed some of this equipment, and this equipment that we listed are definitely very critical. Like I said, what we've learned from the past where there was, flooding, where we need to reroute, water, whether one is that in the middle of the storm, we needed to have a tank for diesel ready to be able to move to the shelters, because in this last Sinlaco, we couldn't get anything from Morocco. Everything shut down, and so we could not get any fuel. What we've done this time around to prepare for it is that, yes, we were able to get a used tank so we can go up there and refuel, station it in the most northern part where we have more shelters would be, of course, up north. That's where our guys had done that. But like I said, that was just an example of lessons learned, and then what can we do for the next storm. And yes, Senator, I was very strict with our people, is to really stay within that dollar amount, but to use and spend the monies wisely based on not just the needs of our shelters, but even the needs for our shelterees. So I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you. Yes, you were. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Just before we go to the next, Mr. Speaker, what have you received so far?
We received, as of yesterday afternoon, $500,000.
Of the 1.25?
Less
Yes.
than half of,
Yes.
for BAVI still,
Yes.
even though we're asking for more.
Yes, because
Okay.
these are already POs that have been cut.
Okay.
Some of the supplies, actually, like I said, are DFAS here himself. The guy put himself out and had to charge for a lot of things that we needed for the schools, and we intend to reimburse him for those as well, and they are well documented.
Is that money in your account already, Frank, or is you waiting for a?
The 500,000 is in our account as of 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. That's the first transfer of money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Colonel Dueñas, National Guard, sir.
Good morning, Speaker. So the Guam National Guard's role in all this, if we move into a state active duty status, it's generally in support of another government of Guam agency. So what we do is we just provide manpower and potentially equipment to support that agency. So in a typhoon response, that would normally be the Office of Homeland Security. That's pretty much it. So any funding would go through that agency upon their approval.
So how much of this funding are you requesting for?
So we have none directly that we're requesting through this with the Guam National Guard.
Listen.
Yes, Military Affairs had $619,000 left from Sinlaku. So we loaded that and we made it available to Department of Military Affairs for any state activation requirements that were necessary. So again, thanks to the body for allowing any known, readily available funding. DMA is a really good instance in when we know that they had money they didn't expend, and we went ahead and transferred that and made it available for BAVI.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Minister, ma'am, Homeland Security. Remember that what I'm primarily looking for is how much of this ask are you asking for? How much of this $13,361,849 is Homeland Security and Civil Defense? I'd like for you to focus just on Homeland Security and Civil Defense, then I'll go to Joe for the recovery. How's that, okay?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Sir, may I start off first by thanking this body for providing the funding necessary for both Super Typhoon Sinlaku and Super Typhoon BAVI in order for us to respond appropriately. So if I want to just set the stage for that. So, and can I also give a caveat? So Mr. Cabana is the director of the Guam Recovery Office, but he is also our finance officer who is tracking all the expenses. So I could start with that, sir. But Speaker, I'd like to report that we are well within our spending of the $250,000 that we were initially given for emergencies, purchases, salaries, supplies, and equipment. And a breakdown, if you know, Mr. Cabana can let you know how much of this $13 million that we are requesting for. And if I can just turn it over to him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yes, out of the Homeland, the $250,000 that was given for Homeland, most of those monies are being used for supplies and anything to run the operations of our EOC. However, the overtime that the staff has incurred was paid out of the Sinlaku account that was being established by the DOA. So all our overtime, approximately about $500,000. $1.5 million is the overtime on that. 1.5, yes, sir. That's it. That's it, sir.
Mr. Burton, was there any cost incurred by DOA?
Mr. Speaker, no, we don't have any direct costs other than we do now have responsibility for the repair of some buildings, and we will have some expenses for those buildings which we estimate to be about 250,000.
Okay. Okay, thank you for going through this exercise. Learn from the mayors. You don't need any money, or you aren't asked for any money. Zero. DPW, you'd probably need about millions, but you don't. No, there's nothing specific other than. Let me just go ahead and take your $10 million that you said you needed for pre, because this is post.
Right.
But I'm going to go ahead and consider it, okay? The 10 million.
The 10 million will go to debris removal for
Okay.
Sinlaco. Yeah.
Okay.
What we would use this is we really want to focus on some of the debris removal for BAVI and assessments and design for the entire shoreline protection of East West Agana and the port.
Okay. For GDUE, you're $66,000 short, so that's just it. National Guard, it's going to be taken care of, so there's really nothing here. Homeland Security, Civil Defense, about 1.5 mil. And DOA, about 250,000. I'm going to do some very quick abacus math, but it's nowhere near $13,361,849. You know, it's kind of curious, you know, when we're sitting here and I'm looking at the numbers and everything, and when I get an odd-looking number, okay, when a lot of times our budgets, you know, deal with the 5s and 10s, and I get a 9, and I get a 1, I'm just wondering how we come up with $13,361,849 and whether or not that's all needed. And I just asked everybody what their portion was of this money. And it's nowhere near that. So what is that figure that is necessary? Anybody?
Mr. Speaker, if I could, on the DPW side, for that retaining wall, East, West Agana, and the port, we could take the entire 13 million. I can tell you that straight on the record. We could take that entire amount for design, for assessment, environmental review, geotech engineering, everything. That entire East, West Agana, and Port Authority reconstruction of that seawall is going to be, I'll throw it easy, 100 million.
And that would have made the language much more simpler if it just said just all to you. But what this language says is for expenses include but are not limited to costs related to the protection of life and property and critical infrastructure, safety and security, inclusive of compensation, comprising regular pay, overtime, hazardous pay, and other authorized personnel costs, food, water, and sheltering, health and medical services, energy, communications, transportation, and hazardous materials. Individual assistance is authorized under this section. I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to do all that. And where do we come up with this specific number of $13,361,849?
Mr. Speaker? Yeah. My staff reminded me that for Sinlaco we had 25 million, right? And we were tracking $63 million in revenue collected above the adopted level prior to the landfall of BAVI. My staff reminds me that we took 63 million less the appropriation to the legislature, less 5 million for DOC, less 20 million for the hospital, and we juxtapose that against the $63 million, and that's essentially how we came up with the $13 million oddball figure number that you're quoting. And there's two items that I was remiss in mentioning. Chelsea Munya from Agriculture has submitted two requests, one for BAVI and one for Sinlaku, $2 million for crop loss damage on each incident. So that's another $4 million of assistance. And we're hoping that we're all okay with the individual assistance being able to provide funding for the farmers and their crop loss for both Sinlaku and BAVI. So that's cumulatively another $4 million that hasn't been a hand raised at the table just yet.
Thank you. I appreciate that. However, Mr. Carlson, I need to remind you that this governor's bill, while there was many discussion here about what happened in Sinlaku, this governor's bill restricts the funding for BAVI. It didn't mention anything about Sinlaku. And I'm very aware and attuned to public assistance, individual assistance, and what should be responding. And that while we can incur these costs, what are we doing to be able to start to work with FEMA? First off, have we determined with Sinlaku and with BAVI what our cost share is?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we have determined, as a matter of fact, upon the declaration of the Sinlaku June 30th, we've already started our applicant briefing. The cost share is a 75-25 split.
Okay. So is it safe to say that we're going to try, if we were to appropriate this $13,361,849, that we can work towards getting at least 75% of this reimbursed?
If the applicant or subrecipient has submitted their request for reimbursement, yes.
Okay, well, let me just clarify this. We're talking about Sinlaku or we're talking about BAVI?
Sinlaku.
Okay, what about BAVI?
BAVI, we're still gathering our IDA, so we have a deadline to meet. We sent out a deadline last July 17th, so we're getting all the numbers and gathering the numbers for FEMA. So we don't have the numbers yet right now, speaking.
Okay. So, Mr. Carlson, I appreciate in as far as what may also should have been included, okay, with regard to the crop assistance and stuff. But again, it's very restrictive, the language.
Yes, and maybe I didn't explain myself correctly, but we did put aside $2 million for crop loss, and we have paid out $950,000 so far for Sinlaku.
Okay.
And then for BAVI, we just got something a day or so ago from Agriculture, also $2 million for BAVI. So we need to put that amount into play so we can take care of the loss incurred by our farmers.
Okay. Who wrote the bill? Who wrote the bill?
The governor's office, sir.
Okay. Because again, it's asking for a very specific amount. And I'm just wondering where that came from, how that came about. Again, doing the math, it's woefully short. Although Vince can use it right away. But I'm sorry, Vince, that's not how the bill was written. Okay? You got to share with the people, all right? But the rest of my questions on this is predicated on how we got to this figure. And then what processes, now my next question is what process are we using to be able to get, this is unprecedented as to what we're asking for, quite honestly. It's unprecedented at this fashion. And in its uniqueness, I guess what we're trying to do in this exercise is find out how we got to these numbers and everything, so that we can make sure that it's covered. All right? That's the point of this. Who's going to get that $1? Okay? It's a funny figure, especially when you're sitting on this side of this side of the aisle. Okay? Or this side of the hall. Okay? I'm not going to belabor this anymore. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Speaker Blas. Chairman Duenas, you're recognized.
Sismasi, Mr. Chair. You know, as I listened to the Speaker ask his questions, the answers that I've seen so far is we came in for Sinlaku on response and recovery. And then we came in on BAVI to use the remaining funds for response and recovery. And so far, at least from DPW, what I've heard is response, recovery, and capital improvement and mitigation. So I'll ask those questions in a moment, but I wanted to start with, I think I know why the Mayor's Council, first of all, they weren't consulted, but I think I know why, from a couple of mayors that I've spoken to, they haven't put in a request or are okay with what they currently have. Not okay, always can use more, but in terms of the line of questioning I need to ask is if this is correct. First of all, what did the Mayor's Council receive for both Sinlaku and BAVI, cumulative? What distribution did they receive from Department of Administration?
So for Sinlaku would be roughly 4.7, and for BAVI would be 4.8 million.
So they transferred all of that to the Mayor's Council of Guam. You have that in your accounts?
So as it relates to Sinlaku, we utilize, yes, they transferred the funding over. However, we weren't able to utilize all the funding because the executive order stated within the 30 days of the emergency, so we followed just that. Any remaining was supposed to go back to the account of the rainy day fund, so I didn't honor any requests after the 30 days. The executive order was not extended, so we just followed the executive order.
So what is currently in your account for Sinlaku?
I don't have that figure. I could get that to you.
But you didn't turn it back to DOA. You still have it in your account.
So it was. Can you give me one moment?
Yes.
Senator Duenas?
Yes.
Yeah, so the executive order basically was the response. The public law actually trumps the executive order, and the funds were available to the Mayor's Council with the requirement that they provide reporting to the legislature until the money is expended. That's how the Sinlaku was written.
Okay, well, we'll figure out where the money's at and how much is there.
We can account for what we've expended so far for Sinlaku. Anything after the 30 days, I'm going to find out where that went. It's typically handled with DOA, but I'll get that answer to you.
Okay. Ed, do you have that accounting?
Well, may I just clarify something?
Please.
The wording for Sinlaku and BAVI laws were different. For Sinlaku, we made the funds available to the Mayor's Council to use up to the amount that was appropriated for, and there was 100,000 then distributed to each of the mayors. For BAVI, the wording says that 250,000 should be dispersed to each of the mayors, which we've done, less the amount that they have appropriated themselves, and that would go through the MCOG process. And then there was another additional 100,000 that went directly to MCOG. Some of the mayors, for different reasons, want to return those funds, principally, I believe, because some mayors don't have staff who are trained to do procurement, and therefore they want it to go back and through the MCOG process.
So Ed, my question is, what is the balance in your account that was either remitted back by the Mayor's Council of Guam, or are you saying you have no returned money from Sinlaku, from the Mayor's Council?
From the Mayor's Council, it's an appropriation.
So did you distribute the entire $4+ million to the Mayor's Council of Guam?
We appropriate, there was an allocation of 4.7 million because the Mayor's Council is part of the overall cash funding.
So you put that cash in their account?
We put the appropriation in their account and we pay for whatever expenses come through.
Okay, so we'll go back to Joy Jean.
So our records indicate that for Sinlaku funding, we have not utilized 1.8 million. Now again, I'm following the executive order, which is clearly states it's 30 days unless extended. So the council followed the order and followed the law, and that's where we're at with Sinlaku's funding.
So you have a 1.8 million allocation balance from Sinlaku.
Correct.
And then let's move now to BAVI.
Senator, I want to talk about BAVI.
Please.
Because I'm glad that DOA thinks it's easy to just stop the process in the middle of the game and issue checks for the mayors to deposit into their non-appropriated funds and without any kind of reconciliation. And this is the frustrating part, is we're always chastised for not using our money. We're always chastised for not following whatever it is they want us to follow. And sure, thank you for the $250,000. And thank you, Governor, for signing it to us. We all got the $250,000 to each mayor's office, and 100, thank you, Senator Ada, and Senator San Augustine, to the Mayor's Council Admin Office. What happened on Friday, just this last Friday, and we were following procurement code, following the law, sending in our requests for procurement to the executive director. Everything is fine. Friday, we get an email. You know who gets the email? Our accountant.
Okay.
Gets an email to tell us that we can no longer encumber any more of this money because a check is going to be written out to the mayor's office, and the mayor's office is going to deposit it, perhaps, into their non-appropriated funds account and figure it out from there.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Joy Jean.
So, Senator...
You mean to tell me that...
There's no reconciliation.
They basically said
DOA.
no money is left that's available, and they independently wrote checks directly to the mayors?
Correct.
All 19 mayors?
Correct.
And for them to deposit that in a non-appropriated account?
Unless they're depositing it into their own personal account. And the issue, the Senator, that I have is that there was no communication between DOA and our admin office to reconcile before issuing these checks. What kind of balance did they use? I mean, even in your own personal account, you don't write a check if you don't know your balance. And we would know what our actual balances are, encumbrances versus expenditure. We went through the whole this whole issue during the budget and how much $2 million we have. But you didn't, we know what our books say. And we have been working on using prior years. We have been working on trying to expend all the money that we asked for. And in this case, this just needs to end for us, because that's all I can tell you, is that we were not consulted and we don't know. So our advice to the mayors is not to cash that check, because we don't know what the actual balances are. Now, if they choose to cash the check, so be it, but then you have vendors out there that might not get paid, invoices that are floating that she doesn't know of. That's number one. Number two, who's certifying those funds? That's appropriated funds. It wasn't a grant. It wasn't a donation from anybody. Those were appropriated funds by this legislature. And we want to follow that law. But for some amazing reason, we all have big checks in our hands, and I don't know what we're going to do. We're not, most of us are not cashing it. Some might. They have that prerogative. And that's what's holding us back now. So if you want to say how much our balance is, well, it's like 1.6 or 1.8 million from BAVI. And then purchase orders that were sitting on her desk getting ready to be issued to the mayors, about 30 or 40, are no longer valid now because there's no money.
Georgie, and I have to bring you in here. Sure. You're not going to certify any of those funds in non-appropriated accounts, are you?
So yeah, absolutely not. This is where you put the council in a very bad predicament, because I had over 202 purchase orders that my accountant had certified. I had signed those purchase orders based on the balance we've had. In the middle of Friday, when I'm told that the accounts are closed and the checks will be cut to individual mayors or remitted to them, now that puts me in a very bad position, because I've certified funds, I've cut purchase orders, and I would really appreciate it if DOA would have called my office so that we can meet on this. Because again, this is appropriations, it's taxpayers' dollars, we have to be accountable for this.
Ed,
I don't understand what was the middle of this.
Ed, I need you to address this.
Certainly, sir.
Please.
The legislation says disperse the money to the mayors. That's what the wording says on the legislation. So that's
appropriation, if I may, is taxpayers' money that we are responsible for.
May I now finish?
And why didn't they, Senator, why, if they were going to give it to us, why didn't they give it to us before they deposited it into DOA's account or through DOA, like they did in other instances? Why in the middle of the game, without proper notice, without reconciliation of accounts? This is what's mind-boggling.
May I finish now?
Please.
Thank you. I mentioned a few moments ago that the wording was different between SINLACO and BAVI. The legislation for BAVI says disperse. Disperse means pay. So that's what we did. 17 out of the 19 mayors have taken the view that Mayor Alec has taken, and if they send the money back, that's fine.
Ed, I have a problem with that, though. Ed, this is my time now. I need to question you on that.
Well,
you have done. I mean, this is appropriation, Ed. You're taking an appropriation, bypassing the council, bypassing their internal controls for contracts and everything else that they're going to pay for these and purchases that these mayors are, and they're depositing it to a non-appropriated fund, which generally is not designed for these type of appropriations, especially when you get an appropriation from this legislature.
I wouldn't have done that if the wording were different. The wording says, pardon me, the wording says disperse.
Why didn't you communicate with the council? They're in total shock here as far as the council and their accounting, and we're dealing with an individual that is definitely account responsible by her very nature. I mean, she just said on the record, Ed, she will not, those mayors are on their own spending that money and could get in trouble. You're saying they don't have the capability. Of course they don't, because that's why the Mayor's Council has a structure for issuing purchase orders and honoring those purchase orders to the proper procurement methodologies.
Well, I think the communication between the Mayor's Council and DOA both ways could be improved. But I will take the money back. We will do that. Two of the mayors decided that they preferred that way of doing the business. But I have to remind the body again, that is what the law that was passed in this room said.
Ed, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna really have a big problem with your independent determination of that, bypassing the proper procurement protocols as discussed right now by not only the president, but by their chief operating officer in order to certify funds. And I think that was an arbitrary decision, especially with no communication verbally or in writing. And I think they should not have to turn it back into you, Ed. I think you should recall those funds and distribute them through the proper process.
If that is what the mayors want to do, we'll do that.
I think that's the only right thing to do. I'm sorry to all those mayors, and I'm going to apologize to them right now out there that are sitting there and they already tell their own president and their own accounting officer that they're in limbo to procure to begin with, and now they're taking a chance by taking this check for $250,000 that you issue, put it in their non-appropriated funds, which is usually donations or other things that they get outside of the appropriation process from this legislature, an appropriation from this legislature that the governor signed into law, and go out there and write a check and say deposit this in non-appropriated funds and go shopping. I think that's just wrong.
Okay. So we did not tell them where to deposit. However,
that's the only fund they have, Ed, other than the mayor's council's account.
You know, we thought we were doing the right thing by dispersing it. That's, again, if I remind you, sir, that's what the law said. If the law had said something different, like it did with Senlaku, then we would have proceeded in that way.
I think the law of accounting should prevail. Joy Jean, you do not approve of this process at all, do you? Please wait till your mic comes on.
How about this? Of course, absolutely not. That's very irresponsible, physically irresponsible. That's the short answer to it.
So you agree that it should be recalled?
I don't agree with any of these amounts to be deposited into a NAF account that's not monitored.
Thank you.
Because regardless of how you slice it, you put everyone at risk here, including the mayors.
Thank you, Joy Jean, and thank you for taking that very strong, appropriate position.
And so we want to know, the mayors want to know now what happens with the remaining funds because of the 4.8 million, Mr. Burns. We've accounted already for 3.2. So the remaining, they're hungry for the money. They want to go utilize it right now. But what do they do with it? The checks that they have, that they were told to pick up.
I think I just mentioned.
And according to my staff, you were out sick and we were waiting for an answer. So please, now that we're in the public's eyes and we are all accountable for our responses, can you please tell the mayors, the 19 mayors that are listening right now, what can they do with the check? Where do they deposit it? And how are they accountable for this? How are they accountable for the process or the expenditures for this?
I think that's a good question, Ed.
Well, I'm not sure I heard all of it because it seemed
so
to
I'll
be
repeat it. I'll repeat it to you, Ed.
But
could you tell the mayors?
Can I finish answering the last question?
Sure.
So, if the mayors wish to reverse this arrangement, which we believe was following the law, rightly or wrongly, we thought we were following the law, then that's fine. The funds will be available to them this afternoon. Then we will cancel the check. They don't even have to return it.
Yeah, Ed, I suggest that you cancel all of those checks and redeposit their allocation into their master account that they used to distribute to the mayors through proper procurement, so those mayors can come back to the mayor's council through Joy Jean, their fiscal officer, and do proper protocols for appropriation.
I have a request for the mayor's council.
Please.
The legislation for Senlaku requires a report to be sent of expenditures by each mayor. Mayor Alec actually sent me, because I requested those reports, Mayor Alec sent me one last week. And thank you, sir, for doing that. I haven't got that report back from any of the other mayors. So I would certainly appreciate that expenditure report. so that we can account for it.
I'm sure they'll meet the requirements for reporting, Ed. Let's move on. Lester, I've got a little bit of difficulty, and I had this distributed to our colleagues. I don't agree with your funds available for appropriation because you did not subtract the GEFF funding source, which right now is a special fund that is short $17,342,882, which in what I've distributed to the colleagues here, when we go through the CRER in June, we take out the Guam Highway Fund, the GEF Fund, the Healthy Futures, the Tourist Attraction Fund. That total is $22,445,572. The Legislature, $890. GMH, $20 million. DOC, $5 million, and that leaves us at $40,295,297 short of your request.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this again, because during the budget session, we were talking about the 26 shortfall, and I made a statement to the body saying that it'll be addressed. You can't pay your 26 property taxes unless you pay your 25. There was a extension that was given, and as you can tell, we were at $22 million previously. The amount is slowly going down, and I think I said it would be a self-rectifying situation, and I think the body was comfortable enough with that to pass a very similar appropriation for 27. And I mean, I appreciate you bringing this up, but I also would like to remind the body that this was a discussion that we had previously, and the people of Guam will be remitting their property taxes. They're very good about that, and I don't see it as a problem. It'll rectify itself. It might go into fiscal 27. They have that ability to pay without penalty to the end of this year. So I don't have any doubts whatsoever that that money will come in. So I didn't include it.
I don't think we're appropriating on any doubts. I think we appropriated for the 27 budget, which is not law yet, because we anticipated when it becomes law, by that time, the money will come in, because December is the deadline. But that's a new fiscal year. We're talking right now, this fiscal year, to appropriate supposed excess revenue, which we cannot say at this point in time. We can hope, we can think, but this is a very tricky appropriation to do against a December figure going forward. I'll move on. You know, Vince, I appreciate your proactiveness and everything else, but I've got an issue with you saying that you could use up all of this money. And the reason why is because, obviously, first of all, on Sinlaku, can we get a copy on thumb drive of all the contracts that you issued on Sinlaku?
Yes, sir.
So can we have that after lunch?
We could, yes, ma'am. Yes,
Thank you. My issue is you're talking about a need for, first of all, an assessment. You're looking at a design. You're looking at, I mean, it's so far down the road, and God bless us. I know we need to shore up that wall and make sure we take care of it going forward. But to say that we need any of this funding right now for A&E, to go out and potentially procure in the next couple of months, I'm dumbfounded. I don't think that's accurate, Vince.
Okay. I agree. That's further down the road. But in the meantime, we do need temporary shoring of the entire seawall. That's not going to cost $500,000. That's going to cost a lot. We're talking about $300 a cubic foot, a cubic yard rather, of concrete cement. That's very, very expensive. And the seawall from East Agana, West Agana, and the port, I don't have the linear feet, but that's extensive. It's extensive. And, you know, I guess what I'm saying is the highest priority right now is to temporarily reconstruct the seawall.
I understand, Vince, but your DPW, I mean, this is an appropriation a week ago that was sent here down here from the governor. I mean, the least you could give us is some sort of an estimate. You know, you're making an estimate on the fly here on the floor. I mean, my gosh, get your guys out there. Get us. But we're sitting here now trying to contemplate an appropriation, and you're saying you could eat it all up. We don't even have an estimate in terms of an assessment.
I understand, Senator. And yes, we are. You know, we started doing estimates with Sinlaku, and then BAVI came along and just doubled the damage. So we've got to go back and reassess and redo our estimates. Unfortunately, I don't have that with us. The BAVI was just, what, 2 weeks ago? We just don't have those estimates right now. But can we use the funding? Absolutely. Do I have a number? I don't have a number. Not today, Senator.
Yeah, and that's why I think this is so wild and all over the place, because once we find out line by line by line, pretty much everybody's set. I mean, then you roll in and say, well, I can just take up the whole thing. I mean, if that's the case, then you would have left these guys out in the cold had they said they needed something, but I guess that's where we are. With the balance of our time here, Vince, I'm going to ask that you at least give us some sort of estimate, and really the reality of the time frame on this appropriation to go forward, and within weeks to a couple of months have any possibility of even needing that appropriation for that funding. I'm going to finish with education. Madam Speaker, so if you got everything that you're already basically owed for BAVI, what would your position be?
In dollar amount, $66,000.
So you'd need an additional $66,000 and you'll be square with BAVI?
Yes, we will. And just to let you know that similar to Mawar, we did not include mold mitigation and down fences. We want to send that through the same process as well, because what we have now, at least, will be a pre and a post documentation.
Thank you, Speaker, and I agree with that. A lot of what we're talking about right now sounds a lot like DLAN to me, and down the road working with civil defense, but that's my time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dueñas. Senator Gumatalto, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're back in court at 10 o'clock on July 7th, 2026. It's been 16 days. So I don't see Esther here. I was going to ask, for the record, are EOC operations being scaled down right now? What's the ops tempo currently at the EOC?
Senator Lucy Perez for Homeland Security Civil Defense. Yes, we are currently scaling down the EOC as we are managing the two Tier 2 shelters. So the ESFs that are assisting in managing that will be the ones present in the EOC in addition to our staff.
So how many ESFs are remaining at the EOC at this hour?
At this hour, we have three ESFs and one working remotely.
Okay, so with that said, can you tell us on the record what is the percentage of the after-action report that's being completed on BAVI to date, if we're still in operation at the EOC?
After action in terms of what's happening?
Again, yeah, we're 16 days in, so is that like, can you give us like a 10%? Are you guys working on the after action for this respective disaster declaration?
We are accumulating our data for the after action report. What we usually do is when the EOC we know a date when the EOC will deactivate, we call all the ESFs together and we have a meeting and we require them to give us the 3 ups, 3 downs minimum of items that they see improvements or what went well and should continue.
Again, I'm hoping that that'll get done in some point. Let me move on. Colonel, thank you for being with us today. What is the National Guard's mission at this hour, and how many people are currently activated to support the BAVI disaster?
Currently, we have no guardsmen. Our last mission was on July 18th, specific to BAVI.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for being with us this afternoon. What is the Guam Police Department's LE role as part of the recovery operations, and how many people are currently, or personnel from GPD are currently activated to support the BAVI disaster?
Still morning. Good morning. So we activated 199 sworn police officers, which equates to 88% of the force, and 27 civilian employees, which is 12% of our civilian employees. Total of 226 personnel were activated for Typhoon BAVI.
Chief, did any reservists get called up?
No.
Thank you. Now, money was given to support the Guam Department of Education and specifically their shelter activities. DOA, can you tell us what date was the funds in our pre-landfall legislation dispersed to them for storm-related activities?
I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat that?
What was the date in which the funds for the pre-landfall, when was it dispersed to the Guam Department of Education?
The pre-landfall funds?
Yeah, we came in here before the storm, Mr. Burns, so,
Yes.
so I'm asking,
Yes.
what date did you give money to DOE?
There wasn't any money to disperse from the pre-landfall.
So how did they stand up all their shelters then? Help me understand.
That was covered oh, I'm sorry. I understand what you're asking now. Yeah. There was none distributed pre-landfall because this legislation came out just before the storm. So we have been going through, it seems to be a little controversial, but we've been going through this legislation trying to disperse the amounts. We dispersed, actually I authorized it on Friday, but it got sent yesterday, the 500,000 that is specified here. The 250,000 per school, the superintendent advised me that there were 5 schools used, although I have to note that one of the schools was only used for a short time, and that maybe they would be changing their request as a result. That is being appropriated now.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. So can I again ask DOE, for the record, are the 5 shelters clear at this hour, and what services were provided to the residents at these shelters?
Yes, all 5 shelters closed. We sent half of the shelteries, about 200 of them, to OCP, and then the remaining 400 plus we sent to Estumbo Gym.
Okay, so outside of the fuel that you mentioned earlier in your testimony, were there other expenses incurred that are not allowable under the Federal Disaster Declaration that are being covered by your agency budget? I know you mentioned you need to cover $66K, but is there other monies that you were spent that are not going to be reimbursed by the federal government?
No, because we've not submitted anything for FEMA, meaning in particular mold mitigation and fencing.
All right, thank you. As of the administration's June 17, 2026 expenditures report for Typhoon Sinlaku, it was reported that of the $15 million that was $15,050,000 allotted from the $25 million appropriation, $2.8 million was expended and $2.1 million was encumbered as of mid-June 2026. What portion of the $10.1 million balance remains available as of today or your latest review, and when does BBMR anticipate providing an updated Sinlaku expenditures report to the Guam Legislature?
Senator, as I think I said earlier, right before BAVI hit, there was a request from DPW to release the $10 million that was in reserve for the green waste disposal. So I released that money, and I don't, yeah, I think I do need to give you an updated Sinlaco report, but once the funds are released, I anticipate the bulk of it will be drawn through the contractors that they secured to take care of the green waste.
All right. Regarding the $250,000 emergency funding that's authorized by law, can you help summarize, and I was hoping that maybe the Recovery Office can help us understand this. Can you help summarize what this appropriation covered so far for BAVI? And for the benefit of those who are following the discussion, were any part of the Sinlaco related expenditures covered by the initial $250,000 emergency funding?
Thank you, Senator. Of the $250,000 for the BAVI, a big round of the, we spent about a total of $202,000 on $13.48. That was our POs that went out. Out of that, our invoices that came is $100,000 for 49 and 42 cents, leaving an outstanding balance of $101,564.06. Expenditures for this is to augment the EOC for fuel, meals, supply, repairs of generator, services, cleaning and plumbing of the building, and sandbags, and communication and equipment rental. None of these are commingled with the $250,000 that was appropriated for Sinlaco.
So I think this is the first time we've heard that the EOC had some damage. So are you saying that part of the storm damage was the generator? I know you took a lot of effort to get it online. So was there a major hit to the power generation of our EOC?
So for the generator, yes, the generator was tested pre-storm, was working during storm, and then one of the electronic cards took a hit from the power back surge. So we coordinated with getting another generator from FEMA to power up the EOC, and then also working with our vendors to get the cost so that we can replace that circuit.
Any idea when that will be completed? We're still in the emergency time frame.
Yes, sir, understood. So we did inform them about the urgency of time. So we're looking at two options. So both vendors are trying to find out where the part is and how we can get it. Option B is we do a rethreading or recoil of a certain equipment to buy us some time. But in the meantime, the EOC is operational and will remain operational. We do have a FEMA standby generator on site, and staff have been trained on how to utilize it. So in the event another incident happens, we have a generator.
Is FEMA still embedded with the government of Guam up at the EOC?
Yes, sir, they are in the IOF.
And they're aware that we're trying to procure parts for our generator?
Yes, sir, they are.
All right, thank you. Based on a question I asked during the June 19, 2026 oversight hearing, what efforts, if any, have been made to date to reconcile potentially duplicative or conflicting assessments for Super Typhoon BAVI with damage reports that were submitted for Super Typhoon Mawar and Sinlaco? Now, can also BBMR, GSA, or DOA give us a few examples of requests from our village mayors and other emergency managers that were not funded with Sinlaco appropriations but were eventually supported using BAVI-specific response and recovery funds?
I can only tell you the reverse. As I mentioned earlier, that for military affairs, there was $619,000 available from Sinlaco that we loaded for BAVI. I don't believe that we had anything that was reversed where we did BAVI for Sinlaco.
Mr. Byrne, you have anything?
I concur with Mr. Carlson.
All right, thank you so much. Now for the Mayor's Council of Guam, if I can ask, how much, again, have you expended to date for BAVI response and recovery?
I'm so sorry, Senator. Can you please repeat that one more time?
Yes, thank you. For you, how much has the Mayor's Council of Guam, how much have you expended to date for BAVI response and recovery? And let's take it in two chunks.
Sure.
You have the mayor's and your respective office.
So let me summarize it for you, if that may be easier. As far as expenditures and encumbrance, we've done at least 3.2 million of the 4.8. So we have 1.6 remaining.
And then for your office?
That's everything.
Okay. And then going back, will the Mayor's Council be able to complete your work with these funds in the next 14 days as part of the emergency? Because we're still inside the emergency.
Well, the way I understand the executive order is it's a 90-day term, so we are using that 90-day as far as procurement.
So about 74 days. Will you be able to make all these things done in 74 days?
Well, I can tell you right now, we're behind 5 days already. So the goal is to supply the villages with their heavy equipments or rentals or whatever they need to recover and restore the villages back. Absolutely, the answer is yes.
So any conversations that the Mayor's Council had with FEMA on complying with all rules and regulations under the Stafford Act? Because I know this is a federal disaster declaration. Are you guys in compliance?
We have had communications with FEMA, but not regarding reimbursement.
Yeah, because I think that if we recall during BAVI, and we see it in the actual expenditures, and I know that there was phone calls made to Public Works from certain mayors that, and this is not any offense to Lynn or to Vince, but they called your agency and they just couldn't get the resources, so they went and they bought equipment. They bought backhoes, they bought trucks, they bought everything imaginable, I think, that are now probably going to be bigger than Public Works at this point. So why I asked that question is because under the Stafford Act, certain parts of the monies that are given can be reimbursed, but at this point, 19 districts made major purchases. That means that they will not be eligible for reimbursements under the Stafford Act, I guess?
I can tell you we followed every procurement law that is required locally. So if we were to have our documents inspected, I'd be glad to demonstrate that. And whatever we need to do to get reimbursed, the council is ready for that, as well as the villages.
Right, and I think that there's a small amounts, right? Because now they have pretty much everything that they need to take care of their respective districts in the event of an emergency. I mean, you just can't return a dump truck or you can't return a backhoe. And they did not rent, they bought, my understanding. Can you, for the record, can you clarify that was the case across many of the 19 districts?
So to your point, Senator, what we have done, or what I have done with the mayors, is I've actually started to purchase heavy equipment as well as rent the heavy equipment. So there's several villages, namely the south, that require maybe 1 or 2 backhoe through every storm, that assisted them as far as to mitigate and to recover immediately. So yes, during the emergency time when we're given emergency funds, you best believe that the mayors do utilize that. It's highly encouraged. We meet with them regularly. I sit down, I go out and see what the market has. So what I can say is that as far as the market's concerned, heavy equipment is not just off the shelf. There's maybe 1 or 2 backhoe that's available. There's several that's coming in maybe in a month's time. So this time frame of the 90 days actually works really well for the mayors.
And with that said, I'm just going to go to, probably the rest of my questions will be with DPW, but I know that, Vince, you mentioned much of the seawall activity and in cooperation with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, that we can probably speak for much of the Marine Drive or Route 1, because at my office I see every day and hear it every day, the moving of sand and the like. Those were projects that are being in close coordination with EPA, US EPA, and I guess Army Corps to ensure that the moving of sand is being done correctly. It sounds crazy, but moving sand is not, you just can't throw it back in the ocean, right?
Correct, correct. Only to the high water mark,
now,
as I understand.
Now, there was major damage, and I know that we just haven't really talked about it, because I know preliminarily we haven't really had a go at it, but much of the road, especially the newer improvements to Route 1, were damaged. There's now bumps in these roads, but that's the same as in southern Guam. We're not talking about southern Guam at this point, but there was extensive damage, especially in the Barcenas area, down in the Maleso, going down towards Enrahan. Is that, are those part of the projects that will be identified in your, I guess, that big ticket that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, they will be.
Because I know that Sinlaku, there was damage to much of it, but how fast really are we thinking that these areas are going to be improved? Because I know that Mawar damage still is still pending too, right?
You know, the process for renovation, repair, construction of federal identified routes, Route 1, Route 2, Route 16, it's
hey, why not Route 4? You didn't say Route 4.
Route 4. It's just long, and it's just a long, tedious procedure. There's all kinds of processes that are involved in road construction and road repair, not to include just finding the available funding for it. So, you know, it does take long. You know, we've had projects that sometimes take us 3 years until we finally break ground, and that's just the process. And then on top of that, we have our procurement, our own local procurement, that takes a while as well. So it's a lot of buildup until you finally break ground for a road reconstruction.
Okay, so let me just ask one last question, especially on the debris removal. You did mention earlier that the debris sites are going to be closed today or tomorrow?
Today is the last day.
Okay, so let me move to the chief. Chief, I mean, I'll speak for the chairman, but he mentioned there was quite a number of law enforcement to be positioned in these debris sites. Is there a thought that that may have been a bit excessive for debris removal? Was there some hint that there might be theft going on? There was a lot of GPD up on EPAL, and I just wanted to get your take on, was it necessary to have that many LEs, police officers, assigned to EPAL and the debris removal site?
Not aware of, Senator. I'm not sure how many police officers are you referring to, but not that I'm aware of that we sent a lot of our officers for that specific assignment. I'm aware of, you know, one per shift, and we do 12-hour shifts. That's what I'm aware of, according to our operational plan.
Yeah. I'm not trying to get you in a gotcha moment. I know that the chair had said he saw plenty of police officers. Go ahead, Lynn. You want to say something about the site? It's just an awfully expensive effort.
So the debris site, the monitoring and traffic control is handled by GPD. So what it is that we do have irate customers that do come in. They're ineligible waste, right? So they get into the line. By the time, so GPD controls the traffic control. EPA is the enforcer to make sure the waste streams are separated. And so when we get irate customers and we have to turn them around, we would need enforcement. And then also when they're in the site and we direct them to the permitting site, we find out that in between the bags and stuff, there is an illegal waste stream. So we have that situation with our staff, so we ask for support to escort the individual out. So there is some instance that we do need enforcement in the debris site and outside of the debris site.
Right, thank you for that. I know we're only 16 days in, so I mean, we can look outside. It is pretty blue sky for the most part, but because why I asked that question on the debris sites, because there were, and I don't like using the reference, but you talked about illegal waste streams, but we're also getting reports that there are also illegal dump sites because they can't go through that's being monitored by GPD, and they're now dumping elsewhere. I don't know, it could be in different villages. Are you guys getting those same reports as we are?
So, like Vince had mentioned, the last oversight, illegal dumping is happening, and it's because they're not part of the Guam solid waste stream customers, or they're not aware of their program that are given 5 up to 10 items twice a year. If you're an active customer, you can get your white goods, your mattresses, your furnitures picked up by Guam Solid Waste. And if you're not a non-active customer, you would pay a fee and they will still provide you that service. So there is a program that's handled by Guam Solid Waste. It's just that the residents are not fully aware. I'm not too sure. But that is a program offered by Guam Solid Waste.
Well, I mean, I think if the EOC is still activated, there's like message number one. Because right now, if we're starting to see that, I know the Joint Information Center may be limited, but you know, we need to get the word out about illegal dumping. And I think that that's an important distinction today. As shelters are cleared and everyone's trying to get back to normal, again, we're only 16 days out. In 16 days, pick another response. 16 days, people were still without power, water, and a bunch of different things. We still have that today. But this is a different type of activity that we're seeing. And I do appreciate the effort. And I do appreciate your candor in this first round, at least on the questions I had. So, Mr. Chair, that's all I have at this time for this round. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gumatao. The time's 12:15. We're going to go ahead and take a lunch break, and we'll return here at 2:15 p.m. So we're on recess till 2:15.